Hello and welcome to another edition of That Millwall podcast. Tonight is a bit of an emergency podcast. I've said to Mickey yesterday, I think we'll be quiet on the pod this week. Won't be too much going on until Friday. And then lo and behold, Millwall will make the decision to relieve Joe Edwards of his duties and reappoint club legend Neil Harris. Before we get started, got couple of guests with me. We'll be joined by maybe a couple other people later. But firstly, Joe Zampa. Joe, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good, Stephen. How are you, mate? You all right?
Yeah, not too bad. Ready for a bit of fire, I think, on this one. We're already up at the.
What's happened today? Has anything happened?
We'll come to it. Just a couple of bits of small news coming out of the club. We're already. We're already over 115 viewers within literally seconds of going on. So I think this is going to be very interesting. And also, we're joined by a newer face. Jay, you joined us on Saturday. A bit of a baptism of fire for you with your first two shows. They've been very, very lively, I think. How are you, my friend?
Yeah, not too bad. Stay evening, Joe, as well. Yeah, it's going to be a bit. I think that, like I said off air, I think this has been the most divided the fan base is ever going to be, and this is probably their first opportunity to let rip. So, yeah, ready for it.
Absolutely. And guys, in the comments, I will put up all your comments. We're going to rattle through. Obviously, there's going to be a lot to talk about. There's going to be a lot of opinions, so we'll get them all up. Also, if you are interested in coming on and airing your opinion, drop us a message. Let us know. We can try and sort that out. But obviously, if you prefer to sit in the comments and follow along with us, that's absolutely fine. So let's get into it. This morning, rumours started circulating that the decision was going to be made to take Joe Edwards out of the firing line and relieve him of his duties. We'll start with Edwards. Joe. I think after Saturday's defeat, it was probably writing on the wall for Joe Edwards' time as Millwall manager, wasn't it?
Yeah, as you know, Steve, we've got our own WhatsApp group for our podcast, and I was kind of, my emotions were all over the place. I was a bit like, what the fuck's going on here? Why are we going backwards? Why are we picking Harris for? You know, and you still hold on to that dream of this project that Joe Edwards was talking about, and trying to get us to evolve and become a better footballing team. And then once kind of dust settles a little bit, you realise actually where we are at the moment, we're in fucking shit creek at the moment. So what do we need to do now to get survival? And I can't think of a better appointment, to be honest with you. Firstly, there's not many managers out there available. Even Harris, to be fair, wasn't available. We've had to pay compensation to get him from Cambridge, which I think is the first time I recall us ever doing that when we appoint a manager. But it's back to here and now, isn't it? And I do believe that Harris will give us what we need. That gives that lift at least to try and get us playing and winning some games. We need to get some points on the board. End of. Whatever happens going forward after this season, so be it. But I think the most important thing is stay in the Championship, don't get relegated, and then we'll take next season as it comes.
Absolutely. And Jay, following your show, I was watching in parts. I wasn't able to take part on Saturday night, and there was a lot of frustration, a lot of comments around the players, around Edwards. I feel like it wasn't a shock, but at the same time, it's probably that kind of, as Joe said, the killing of the dream, that the club had made a decision to go in a radical way with a young manager and try to change. And then that's kind of just come crashing down in a way that we didn't really hope or expect it would.
Yeah, I totally agree. Look, I don't think any of us hated the hire of Joe Edwards. I think the initiative from the club, this young forward-thinking manager, up-and-comer, been a coaching for a very long time. We completely went the opposite from Rowett, and I think most of us were all for that. I was personally. It hasn't worked out. Now, it ain't for the want of trying, but the club is now in desperation mode. And like Joe, when I woke up today, my emotions were everywhere. It was, why have we got Harris back? This club's going backwards. But is there anyone else who knows how to get the fight into this club than Neil Harris does? I don't think there is. Some of the players, a lot of the players, as we touched on the last pod, played under Harris. Harris got a lot out of these players. Yes, the situation that Harris left us in, we was in 18th place, 5 points above the relegation zone. But he still did very well before that. You know, he had a win percentage of around 42%, which over the course of games that he had, managed nearly 300 games for Millwall. That isn't the worst. Took us to a promotion, back-to-back playoff finals. We could do a lot worse. And there isn't, like Joe said, there isn't anyone out there that can come in, and we've got time to give them to get used to the squad, get used to the club, and then 6 weeks down the line may start seeing results. We need it now. But it's not just results we need kicking up the arse in that dressing room. And there isn't anyone better than Neil Harris to do that, I don't think.
Absolutely. And I mean, obviously, a lot of the conversation, a lot of the talk is going to be around Harris, where, you know, the past experiences, is it a backward step? And we'll all have our opinions. For what it's worth, and I think it's important to say this, no hard feelings where Joe Edwards are concerned. No, you know, it's not a hatred, or it's not a personal thing. Unfortunately, I believe it was a case of right manager, wrong time, and
100%.
and that's something the club are going to have to deal with in the long term. And also, we've now, for me, we've now got to start coming away from Gary Rowett. This is now 2 managers ago. But if they wanted to give Edwards the job, or they wanted to go in a different direction, it should have been done in the summer. For me, that's all I would say on that. Joe obviously has left the club, and now we're Neil Harris is at the helm. First things first, Joe, I'll come back to you. He's been announced as head coach, not manager. Now, there's talk that that Neil Harris is quite a leader with an iron fist. He wants it done his way. He's the man in charge. He's the main man. Not the manager, though.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that matters too much to Neil. For Neil, I think it's just a job title. Don't get it wrong. He will manage. You know, you can see what he's about. You know, he's not somebody that's going to sort of shy away from making decisions and doing what he believes right for the club. You know, if I was Neil and they told me, right, we're going to call you head coach, I'd be thinking, yeah, okay, fine. But behind their backs, he's probably thinking, fuck that, I'm doing my own thing. Don't get it wrong. There's certain things when it comes to transfers and compliances where perhaps he might be happy to kind of let them lead a little bit on that. But when it comes to managing the players and dealing with what goes on with the team, don't get wrong, he will be in charge. I think that's the biggest difference between him and Joe Edwards, really. Joe Edwards, I think, was quite happy to be a coach or head coach because that's what he is. He's proven over the years he's been a very good coach, good academy coach as well. Neil Harris, with the greatest respect, yes, he can coach, but I think he's a manager first, coach second. He cares about, the players, the team, getting results and making things happen. He'll leave the coaching side in training to other people and probably take a bit more back seat, I would imagine.
Yeah, and I think, Jay, coming to you, it's just one of those, isn't it, where I think Harris he's answered the call. I think whether it's head coach, manager, I'm surprised it's not manager because of what he was like previously. But ultimately for him, he's probably, I don't know if you've managed to listen to his interview if the guys have. He said, I was surprised to get the call, pleasant surprise, but you get the feeling that it even took him by surprise, really, how all this has come about.
I think so. He said, as you just said, it come on really fast, which makes me question, when was this decision made by the club? Because we wasn't expected to really get anything from Saturday anyway, even if Harris was in charge. So when did they make this decision? Have they listened to, because there was big uproar about Edwards' interview that he gave in talking about how it's not a happy place to come to be a Millwall sport at the moment, which received so much backlash. Did the club see this over the course of the last couple of days and think we need to do something now? Or was this a decision already made? Because the other thing is that Neil Harris has been given, I believe, an 18-month contract. This isn't to the end of the season for Neil Harris. Is that a reward? Right, you keep us up. You've got an 18-month contract. We'll let you run with it next season. Or is it a 18-month contract where they will pay him the 18 months for keeping us up, but we go in another direction? It seems a lot like off the cuff this morning because there was nothing, no rumours at all, and it just all happened in the blink of an eye. From our surprise and to Harris's surprise, in terms of the head coach scenario, is that certain people saving their job within that because might have certain excrement on their face from their recent actions? Is there more going on with this head coaching scenario that other people do not want to face the door themselves? I'm sure we'll touch on that sort of situation later. We did on Saturday, but yeah, Very, very strange, very, very quick. But yeah, we're all letting it unfold.
I think, Joe, just to follow on from that, I got a text earlier, and I won't mention the name of the person who texted me, not a panelist or anything like that, but a good friend of mine, who said that it just shows that this kind of appointment appears to be a follow-on from the club's lack of contacts. The black book, if you will, of football seems to be rather short where Millwall Football Club's concerned. Under Rowett, I know I said I didn't want to touch on it, but I will. We signed players that played for his former clubs. Edwards was a mate who, let's face it, if we're led to believe, didn't actually apply for the job. He was asked to apply for the job by Alex Aldridge. And now we've gone back to a former manager. Are we really at a point where we're so struggling that we just have to go back the old black book and see whose name's at the top of the list? Is that how it feels, or do you have a different opinion?
I just think, quite honestly, we're at a point now where we haven't got a chance or time to take any gambles. Yes, they could have gone overseas and get a foreign manager in, or see who else is available lower in divisions. But what we need at the moment is someone that's going to reinstall the passion back in the team, give us a lift, get the fans on board, someone who knows the club, someone who knows about Millwall. If any of you listen to Neil Harris's brief video that Millwall put out on social media early this afternoon, I think it's only 30 seconds long at the moment, but he talks straight away about passion, about knowing what he knows better than anyone, what Millwall want, and I think the things he was saying there are all the things that us fans have been thinking and saying to each other. So I think for them, yes, it's an easy decision in some ways, but I think it's also a brave move for them, because long term, is he the right person for us? We don't know. I think in the short term, absolutely. I think Mr. Pike there mentioned in one of his comments earlier on there, he mentioned about it being an 18-month contract. That does scare me a little bit. If it was a contract to the end of the season, or a short 3 month, whatever it might be, I'd be quite up for that. I think, yeah, fair play. Let's see what you can do. Knowing that he's got the summer to then start bringing players in and start doing things his way, it does worry me a little bit, because I don't see, with great respect, I don't see Neil Harris as somebody that's going to build and evolve us for the future, like say Joe Edwards would have done. So that's my only gripe. But yeah, for the interim, for now, good shout. I don't think there's many ones.
Do you think though, Joe? Sorry to interrupt. Do you think though that is something like maybe an incentive of a reward for Harris?
What for? He's longevity
for taking the job a long time, to basically say, like, look, I know that this is all sudden. If you keep us up, this is your reward. This is an 18-month contract, basically.
So what you're saying, they should have done that, you mean, rather than give him the 18
No,
months?
I mean, do you think that's what it is? I mean, that's personally, I think that's a logical thing to do, is to give, if you keep us up, because let's face it, going down would be absolutely catastrophic for this club. If Harris keeps us up, we've given him an 18-month contract. It's not a come and save us contract, is it? This is this could be some sort of reward for Harris if he does keep us up, or if we go down, he's got us out of that division before.
Yeah, I think the 18-month contract, that they've kind of almost showed their hand there. They're committed to this, aren't they? If it doesn't work out, if we get relegated this end of the season, the chances are they'll probably keep Harris in charge while we're in League One and hope we get back up again. Maybe it's a bit of hardball from Neil Harris. He's in a job at the moment, or he was in a job with Cambridge. He's thinking, if I'm going to leave and come and join you guys, I want more than just a 3-month contract, 4-month contract. I want at least 18 months. And probably play a little bit of hardball with them, and they probably agreed to it. But you're absolutely right, though. I think the reward should have been there, and the way they should have done it is, listen, keep us up. We'll extend it for another year or 2 years, whatever you want to call it, But yeah, it does seem a bit risky to me, but I just don't believe that he would have took it, which is a short-term 3 month.
Without a doubt. But you touched on that video that he put out, that 30-second video, and the biggest thing that stood out to me in that was when he said that the players will see me on the sideline, leading from the sideline. That was the biggest take I took from that, because we haven't seen that from Edwards at all. And
absolutely.
Harris is animated. He's an animated character. He was when he was in charge before. And he will galvanise this club. For how long for, and for how rewarding it will be. That's what we're here.
I wonder, sorry, Stephen. I wonder,
Yeah.
to your point there, Jay, I wonder how he knew that. I mean, he's a busy guy. Yeah, he's managing other teams at the moment. You know, will he be invested in what we're doing, what we've been doing in recent months? I doubt it. Maybe he probably checks out for our scores, but I don't think he's too concerned what goes on. I reckon that must have been fed back to him through the directors or Alex Aldridge or whoever it might be, Kavanagh. Probably said, listen, you know, this is Joe Edwards. We believe we need someone who's going to manage and really kind of dictate from the sidelines. He's been a bit too quiet. And for him to mention that, it sounds like that discussion has been made prior to him saying that. Hence the reason why he mentioned it. So, yeah, it's an interesting point. And you're right that it's a big statement that he made there. Yeah, talk about passion and everything else. That's important.
I think just before I carry on, there's over 200 of you in the chat and watching us live at the moment. So thank you very much for your support. If you can like and subscribe, that would be really, really great. I'm doing my Mickey piece. He'll be absolutely delighted that I've taken on that mantra.
It'd be interesting out of those 200, who's happy with the decision, who's not. I mean,
yeah,
we done a poll earlier. I think 64% were in favour of Harris being in charge. So it's quite a high percentage. Majority is definitely with him, but there's certainly 36% of fans out there still not quite sure and would prefer to have Joe Edwards. So I wouldn't say it's split, but there's definitely a divider, isn't there?
Yeah, absolutely. If you can, guys, it's quite difficult with all the comments coming through, but if you can put yes or no, or yes Harris, no Harris, however you want to do it, so we can when we get to them, we'll run through them. I think that to touch on what you guys were just saying there with Harris, Harris is someone who gives it the mouth as such. I think he knows what the fans want to hear, but he doesn't just say it because they want to hear it. I think he made a claim of, he's been associated with the club for a long, long time. He's had a lot of highs, a lot of lows. He knows what it takes to be successful at this football club. I think he does know that if it doesn't quite work, let's be honest, being honest with this part, if it doesn't work for Neil Harris and we get relegated, it won't be on his shoulders.
No,
it'll be the mess that has been built beforehand and what he's inherited, much like what it was like under Holloway. The only difference is under Holloway, I think we were in the bottom three and were playing catch up and we were pretty much gone before Harris had even had an opportunity. This time they've made the decision with a little bit of breathing space in the sense of 13 games to try and sort ourselves out. So I can understand it. I mean, we're going to come on to loads of different things about Neil Harris, but I as much as the fans are divided, and they are, and they will be, do you think, and I'm going on Saturday, I don't know how many in the chat, I don't know if either of you two are, but do you think that away end are firmly, when Neil Harris walks out as Millwall manager again, they are firmly going to be behind him, and you will get that Super Neil chant in the away end, and they will back him?
I agree with Jay. Yeah, I think straight from the off, as soon as he comes out on that pitch, Jay, you could just see him singing, Super Neil Harris. It's going to happen straight away,
He's a galvanizer. The Millwall media, this is the perfect hire for the Millwall media, because he says he speaks as a fan to the media. He says what we want to hear, and he's a club legend on the pitch and off the pitch. The Millwall media are going to love this. The amount of videos that are going to come out now, there's going to be training videos, there's going to be updates where they weren't updating from half time on Saturday. They're going to have a field day now. But exactly what you just said there, that both of you, that the minute them players take out for the warm up on Saturday, the away end's going to be buzzing. Even more so when we come back home. Like, Neil Harris will galvanise the club, whether people are against the signing, against bringing him back or not. One thing people can never take away from Neil Harris is that he is probably the biggest figure that can galvanise this club. No one can disagree with that. So I think from that standpoint, yes, everyone will be on board. Everyone in the stands will thrive on it. The energy will be there. A lot of these players, as I said, played under Harris. They will know what it takes. They will know what he stands for, what he will and won't put up with. Because let's face it, they're all fighting for their places again now. This is all new for them now. A lot of these players are out of contracts in the summer. A lot of these players go back to parent clubs in the summer. This is a massive, massive point in the history of this football club, because if we go down, we are in major, major trouble from the squad that we're going to lose is going to be a completely different squad. And where do we go from the board down management wise?
Interesting point you made there, Jay. And I can't help but feel the point you mentioned about the players that know him, and these players that know him and worked with him before are arguably players now that are kind of like fringe players. These are players that we're thinking, are they going to get let go this season? Either, their contracts won't get renewed or they'll get sold on because, Joe was making it quite clear that he wanted to build his new team and a new style of football. So I can't help but feel that those players are probably more than happy, most happiest, knowing that Neil Harris is coming back because they might get an extra year's contract or whatever it might be, might suit them. However, how do the more technical players feel about this? Because, you've got likes of Zian Fleming, Casper De Noor. I'd even put Honeyman in that position as well, where, these players like to play good football. They want to play with the ball on the deck, passing around, possession football. Neil Harris much as me and Stephen does. Are they going to want to play this side of football? Do they want to see that ball being hoofed from defence, hitting long above their heads, and watching that ball go back to forward like it's a tennis match at Wimbledon?
They're not, but who are they to start giving their orders out now? That'd be my answer to that. They've tried and tested other ways. They've been given freedom. They've been allowed to play probably the football that they want to play, because it has been renowned for the last few years that the players do want to play football, but now it's time for them to just shut up and put up. And if Neil Harris comes in and says, this is how we're going to play football, they are going to play that football or they're out. It's as simple as that. Like I said, some of them probably don't care. They're not going to be here. But the ones that do, the ones that know Neil, the ones that have, for one, got respect for Neil, even if they're not going to be here next season, the ones that have got respect for someone like Neil Harris, they will do as he says. Now, it won't be pretty for the fans either, but if it's going to keep us up, I'm all for it.
I agree. And one more point. Sorry, Stephen.
No, go on.
What do you think about the time? This is a question to both of you guys, really. What do you think about the timing of this? I mean, Southampton away this Saturday. We all know it's going to be a really tough game. The chances are we're probably going to lose, whoever's in charge. Would it have made more sense to keep Joe Edwards in charge for that game, knowing that it's a given, we're going to lose it, we're not going to get anything out of it, then appoint Neil Harris for the Watford game at home, where he's got a week to work with the players, implement his ethos and what he wants. Obviously, Watford, I'm not saying that we're a bogey team of theirs, but we've done double over them last season. We drew against them away at Vicarage Road this season. So I feel quite confident we might get a result against Watford at home. That might be a better game for Neil Harris to be in charge. Now, Neil Harris takes over for Saturday's game, and then suddenly we lose 4-0 or 5-0 to Southampton. What kind of pressure does that put on Neil Harris in his first game in charge, going there and getting thumped 4-5-0? Obviously, on the flip side, we could go out there and win, and everyone will be singing his praises. But realistically, the chance side is going to lose. How will that fit with the fan base, do you think?
Personally, I think the timing's... I'm quite happy with the timing because, like I said earlier, I don't think anybody with Edwards in charge, with Harris in charge, with anyone in charge, is expecting us to go to Southampton and get a result. If we lose, we lose. Harris is not going to share any of the blame for that whatsoever. Bearing in mind, it's now Wednesday, we play on Saturday. I think having these days leading up to that game and the extra week leading into the Watford game will give Harris more time to come in, get to know some of the players he hasn't met before, start installing things, and basically have a week and a half of installing his game plan and what he wants to do going into the Watford game. I think the Watford game is obviously more important in terms of where we think we're going to get a result over the Southampton game. So I think they're just trying to give him as much time as possible, knowing that, look, go up to Southampton, get a draw, fantastic. This is amazing. Get a win. Neil Harris will have a statue out. But exactly, I think they've just seen it like that. Like, look, the fans have already written this game off as a loss. It cannot do any harm whatsoever other than give Neil a little bit more time to come in and see some of the new faces. That's personally what I think.
Yeah. I would say with the timing, there's a comment coming that I've seen on the screen that I haven't got to just yet that says that Saturday's a free hit for Harris. It's not necessarily a free hit for the players, because I think the players that whatever team he picks, I think it's going to look different. We'll come on to this, but it's likely to not be the 5 at the back or the 3 centre halves, however you want to word it. It's going to be a little bit more of a robust Neil Harris type side. But for Harris, it might be a free hit. He knows, he's not stupid. He hinted at his interview. It's Southampton away. I know they lost last night, but they've only lost, 2 in 30 games or whatever it is. It's not going to be easy. But as I said, the players are playing for a new manager now. Some of them might have known they were playing every week under Joe Edwards because, managers have their favourites. Neil Harris is coming in. Nobody's spot is guaranteed. I would argue, even, and I know he might be a fan of his, I don't think even the captains, as Jake Cooper, as much as people might disagree with that, I think everybody's spot is up for grabs, because if Cooper's not up to it, or he's not feeling it, or he's not playing well, or he doesn't buy into the mantra, or he's become soft, or whatever it is that we think about him, Neil Harris isn't going to have that. If Jake Cooper stands up and wants to fight for his manager, then Jake Cooper will keep his spot. But until Harris sees them, we won't know. As I say, I think Saturday is, it'd be unfortunate for Neil if we don't get anything out of the game and we drop into the bottom 3 in his first game. That would be unfortunate, but the main thing is, and I saw this earlier, we've got, I think, 6 home games left. Leicester aside, because Leicester, obviously, where they are in the league, they have all now become much more winnable for me with Neil Harris in charge. That's just how I see it.
The other side of it, Steve, as well, is sorry to interrupt you, is that
no, go on.
You look at the sides around us now down the bottom. Look at how Rotherham performed against Ipswich the other night. Sheffield Wednesday against us, QPR picking up points like this. These teams around us are preparing to fight, and someone like Harris is only going to make us join the fight now. So it's becoming a little bit more desperate.
Also, I mean, we talked about the Southampton game, which is quite a big game. I was spying on a Southampton sort of TikTok podcasting the other night after their game, and I pretended to be a Southampton fan, and I was like tweeting on there going, I'm really worried about Millwall. They've got some good players with Fleming and Casper Denor and all that, and they obviously bought it, and they're like, I know we've got to watch out for those players because Fleming, he's a big player for them. We're not playing great at the moment. I can see us slipping up. They're not completely confident they're going to smash us or beat us as we think they are. I think, yes, we're expected to lose. I think it's the manner if we do lose, it's the manner in how we lose. I think under Joe Edwards, you can clearly see us losing 3-0, walking out with our tail between our legs. But if we lose, 1-0, 2-1, it's a really hard-fought game. We see the passion and the players putting their tackles in or whatever. We'll be walking out there and we'll be still singing Super Neil Harris. Even if we lose 2-1. I think that's the most important thing. It's just getting that fight back in our side. Because I think up until now we've been playing as if we're a middle of the league type of team. There's no real kind of passion, fight, and emotions. We need to be scrapping and fighting for our lives. And I'm pretty sure Neil Harris will get them doing that. And like I said, if they don't want to do that, then they'll be out the door or they'll be sitting on the subs bench. He wants his people out there, the players out there are going to fight for the badge. And that's important to him.
I think the other thing, just to comment back on what you said, Jay, I completely agree with you. QPR, Rotherham and Sheffield Wednesday have shown a little bit of fight. I know Rotherham still got beat, but to score 3 goals at Ipswich and to be, it was close to getting a point. I know close isn't enough when you're at the bottom of the league, but the teams above us, Stoke, who I think are in major trouble. There's a lot of rumours about their manager not picking the team and things like that. Plymouth, there's been huge uproar today and last night after Plymouth's defeat against West Brom. Their fans are very unhappy, and they've gone in a similar route to us. They appointed a young coach who was on England's book, who clearly, for whatever reason, it's not working. It's not gone down very well. Birmingham, who I believe, obviously Tony Mowbray, we wish him well. He's going through some difficult times with his health, but they're unstable as well with the fact that they've got an unsettled management with him not at the helm. So whilst the teams below us are fighting, if we can find a little bit of fight, it might be a case of, rather than just concentrating on the teams that are below us, try and capitalize on the teams that are above us. I know it's an obvious statement. You want to finish as high as you can, but we're not the only team that's going through turmoil at the moment. There's other teams around us that are in the same position.
it's really tight. It's really tight down there, even more so now. I mean, Rotherham are probably a little bit further back. Sheffield Wednesday may be a bit further back as well. But like you said, that if we was to win our game on Saturday and results went for us, we'd be 16th in the league. We have lost 24 points from winning positions. That's ranks number 1 in the league. That puts us 8th. We are 4th in the league in clean sheets. How is this team in this position? There is no fight in that team whatsoever. Teams are coming to the den. They're Ole in after 30 minutes, and they're below us in the league. Like it all comes down to, I don't think even about performances as such now. It is just purely about fight. It is about
100%.
Stick someone in the stands, get the crowd on side. The manager's certainly going to have his emotions on the sideline now and Neil. We will in the stands. It's now down to the players to get us out of it, because this ultimately isn't a terrible crop of players. The teams around us can easily be cool. We just have to string 1 or 2 results together. Just don't lose, because when we lose, the teams around us lose. But when we win, that they win as well. We don't gain any ground. We need to start gaining some ground on these teams.
100%. And we're now joined fresh off of the back of doing a Southampton podcast. So he's been really going through the emotions. We're joined by podcast regular Dan Sexton. Dan,
evening.
I
haven't been on the podcast yet, by the way.
Were you waiting for a train? Were you then? Is that what it was?
Yeah, mate. Yeah,
trains were late.
I've been my train already today. So
you got out your system.
Party train on Saturday. That's what I'm looking forward to now.
Do you know what? That's a really good place to start with you, Dan, because obviously there's been some negativity, there's been some positivity. The fans are very, very much divided between the two. Where do you sit on the? Are you on the fence? Are you pro Harris? Are you against the decision? And obviously, why are you saying that the party train on Saturday? I'm assuming you're looking forward to it.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it now. I mean, listen, if Neil Harris can't get a tune out of this team and get this team running through Brixton and Millwall, then I don't think anyone will. First and foremost, let me say that. I think we was sleepwalking towards relegation with Woods. Then it turned into a sinking ship towards relegation. I have more confidence in Harris in terms of what he's going to bring. He's always had good defensive structure, so hopefully he can give us a little bit of that. Moving forward, so I think I'm trying to look at this more positively than negatively. But for those of you who are a little bit pissed off, I can understand. You know, I'm part of me was thinking not just for the next kind of 13 games, was also thinking summer. Some of Harris's signings have been good. Some of Harris's signings were not so good. You sprinkle that in with Alex Aldridge's input, which has generally been not great on the whole, and then I think that panics me a little bit, to be honest. But you know, we kind of got to wait and see where we are for a starter. But the club also need to think about long term in terms of the players that we're signing, because if we're signing players for Harris style ball in the summer again, then we're going to be in exactly the same position, aren't we? When Rowett went and we try and change the style again.
Absolutely, and I think this is the big thing, isn't it? You have to think about the future because of the situation with contracts and stuff. But ultimately, Harris has been brought in for the next 13 games. The board, the players, the management, everybody, whether you think they're good enough or not. Which I'll be honest with you, that we have got some of the most inexperienced, inept staff members behind the scenes. It's obvious, you can tell by some of the decisions that are made, but ultimately the focus is for 13 games, and we've got to try and stay in this division for financial reasons, for all kinds of, for different, you know, how it implications on the club. So first and foremost, as you say, if Harris can't do it, no one else out there probably could. My only concern, my big concern, is if it doesn't work and we do get relegated into League One, we're still going to lose the 10 players that we're likely to lose, you know, out of contract and loan players. Do we trust that the setup that we've got at the moment is good enough to sort out a summer transfer window and have us ready for League One?
Absolutely not. And you consider when Harris I'm trying to be more positive here, but when you consider some of Harris's signings were Tom Elliott, Greg Wild, David Worrell, and John Daddy Budvarsson, without Alex Aldridge's input, does that fill you with much confidence when we're going to need to probably sign, you would imagine, at least half a squad?
But do you not think that's another attraction there for Neil Harris? He's probably thinking back to those days, the budget that he was on and the players he had to sign on lower wages. He's probably rubbing his hands together thinking, fuck me, I've got Casper Denor, I've got Fleming, I've got these amazing sort of like loan players from the Premiership with Norton Cuffy and Obafemi and Tanganga. He's probably looking at us thinking, I wish I had these players back then when I was in charge. I'd probably do a lot more with them, you know? So I think the times have changed. I think we're backing our managers or coaches, what you want to call them these days. And I think he's going to be fairly optimistic, I believe, in getting a tune out of us and working the players that he's got. I don't think he would have took it if he wasn't confident that he could work with the players we've got. Because don't forget, it's his legacy that can be tarnished. He left Millwall, you know, in a pretty kind of good way. I don't recall many managers leaving Millwall with their head held high and the fans thinking, yeah, he's a legend, you know, and he did that. If he does really badly now and gets us relegated and gets a sack, that's going to tarnish him. So I think he's quietly confident that he can do enough with our players.
He wouldn't have came in here if he didn't think he could keep this team up.
No.
There's no way he would have done that.
Absolutely
100%. This is a much better team than what he had before. You know, he had his Ben Thompsons and, you know, and Aidan O'Brien's, you know, and let's be honest, while they did really well for us, they weren't championship level players. Like you just said, Joe, he's got a great squad now. The club have spent some money. We're in a much better position. He has probably thought that. He's also probably looked at it from a standpoint of, if I can keep Millwall up, he will cement himself in immortality for regardless of whatever else he does throughout his career. That will obviously be an insight in for himself. But the club may have said to him, even if you don't go up, we want you up in League One with us next year, running the show, because he's been around this season as well, Neil Harris. You know, he's been promoted 3 times. He's gone from the job centre to League 2 to League 1, now to back in the Championship. So he has bounced around a bit. He's I've got no doubt that he's probably grown as a manager as well. I've been on the forums that the Cambridge fans they're pretty upset that he's left. He's kept them away from the relegation zone.
I was about to say he's only done about 13, 14 games at Cambridge, but they were like 21st, and now they've got.
So I've got him in front of me. So he's managed 14 games. He's won 5, drawn 3, lost 6. But from what they was producing with that crop of players he's got, that's a massive improvement. That's a 38% win percentage. He had a 38% win percentage at Gillingham, 39% win percentage at Cardiff, and 42% with us at Millwall. I've got no doubt since all of them, he's bounced around the leagues. He's made himself a better coach. He's got a better crop of players here. As Joe said earlier, the style of football, have we got the players that can play that type of football, or will Harris adapt? We don't really know the type of coach Harris is now. It has been a long time since we've seen him coaching in action down at Millwall. So it could be a completely different setup from Neil. But another question I've got is Adam Barrett. Adam Barrett is still in the dugout. Now, I could understand.
He's like Captain 9 Lives, isn't he, Adam Barrett?
I know
how he does it, you know, like every time. Yeah,
I can get, Joe, the continuity between having the middleman between Joe Edwards and the club. You know, someone to this is this person, this is that person, shake hands in the middle. Neil Harris doesn't need that.
No.
If anybody associated with Millwall doesn't need that, it's Neil Harris.
Let's remember
he don't need any instruction, does
job
he?
when Harris left last time. Let's not remember that. I think he's just here because he's mates with Kavanagh. Let's be honest, they're Southend mates. They go quite far back.
And this is the biggest problem, Dan. We touched on it earlier. Is that Neil Harris has been given the head coach title? Now, is that people saving face and it keeps them in a job? Because this is a problem that isn't going to go away. This really is a problem that's not going to go away. We touched on it Saturday. You've all touched on it as well. What is happening upstairs that is, because if we go down into League One, this club is not equipped from a business standpoint, from a managerial standpoint, from structure, from the top down, to get us out of that league. That league is what the Championship was 10 years ago. There is massive clubs in League One with big money, with good owners, good structure. They recruit well, they sell on well. We have got none of that at this club. We plan for the now, not for the future. this hire, while it's going backwards, where does it put us after these 13 games, whether we stay up or go down? Because even if we stay up, these same questions are going to arise.
Yeah, I think we've got to simplify it. 13 games left. I think if we win 4 and get a few, if we win 4, that puts us at 45 points. That's virtually almost regardless of safety. I know 50 is a magic number, but if we look at the last few seasons, the team that survived, it's been between like 44, 47 points, I think, depending on how the season's gone. So him getting 4 wins and maybe a couple of draws, I reckon it's enough for us to stay up. And I can see him doing that. I can see him getting a few wins under his belt. We won't be consistent. I guess his stats with us going forward will be very similar, as you mentioned, Jay, with his stats at Cambridge so far. 13 games, 4 wins, 4 draws, 5 losses, or how you want to put it. But I think there's enough there, enough appetite in our boys and our players, and I think he'll get a tune out of them. And that's the thing. We're going to lose some games. We might draw some, but we'll win some. The difference is, under Joe Edwards, we've been losing, every week. And when you think back to how long it was since we won, it just seems like it's an eternity away. Whereas I just know, even if it gets a tune at us for the first 5-6 games, and we end up losing, a few of the ends, we're safe. That's all that matters, is getting safety. And I think Harris can do that. I really do.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And I just, Stephen, I know you want to come in very quickly. Chris, in the comments, good evening. I've changed computers. I've not painted my room pink. Hence the different lighting tonight. I'm on a different
I thought you dyed your hair as well, Dan, to be fair.
No. I've had a haircut today. But no, I'm clearly having a few lighting camera. We'll experiment over the next few shows.
That was one of the things I was going to say, that lots of comments have been asked, Dan, if you've changed your room to pink. Ben, regular from the show, who's abroad in Tenerife, has messaged me I'm in trouble because I didn't read out his comment. So I'm being shouted out all angles here. But the Discord, I wanted to put this one up just quickly. Paul, this is my first time watching the podcast live. I've been listening on Spotify for over a year. Thanks for joining us. It is nuts tonight, as you can imagine.
Welcome, Paul.
With the news of Neil Harris. 236 of you watching live. If you can like and subscribe again, I'm doing my Mickey piece. Mickey may well be joining us. I can't promise anything, but he may well be joining us at some point.
Away from the Den very quickly, Luton are winning away at Anfield.
Really?
Oh, wow. There we go. See, it can happen. Teams can go away from home at teams at the top of the league and get a result. So there's, and this is always a good one. The Lion Blue. Yes, I know I'm behind with the comments, but I'm doing my best here. Next topic, I just wanted to, all of you. I'll go to Joe first. Neil Harris brought on, I believe, Billy Mitchell and Danny McNamara away at Wigan a few years ago. I was there. It was definitely Billy Mitchell in the middle because I think they had Reece James playing for them, and he gave them their debuts in a Millwall shirt. At the moment, we have Idemo Amaku, Romain Esse, Adam Mayer as well, obviously a player that's come in, some young players. Do you think that their game time, and I'm going to specifically highlight Romain Esse here for this section, do you think that his game time will now be improved, considering that he started the last couple of games, so he was given opportunities by Joe? Do you think that will continue, or do you think Harris will go back to a little bit more experience in those positions?
I don't think age plays a big part of Neil Harris, and I don't think even experience counts too much. What does count for Neil Harris is work ethic. It's determination, it's desire, passion, willingness to play and fight for the badge. With the greatest respect, and I love Romain Esse. I think he's a great little player, and we're so lucky to have him. Is he a Neil Harris type of player? I don't think so. Neil Harris is going to be picking his team with the typical Millwall type player, and he wants people that are going to play with aggression, players that are going to be strong on the ball, determined, have that fight, be a bit nasty. That's what he wants, and that's not Romain Esse, sadly. So don't get me wrong, I'm sure he'll probably have a few little appearances off the bench. I've just struggled to sort of see where he would fit in to a Neil Harris sort of team. I mean, don't get me wrong, we'd probably do a bit of an injustice for Neil Harris here. I mean, for all we know, his time away, albeit I know it's been with likes of Cardiff, Gillingham and Cambridge, but like Jay said earlier, he's probably evolved a little bit as a manager himself and changed his style a little bit. Maybe he's not quite the 4-4-2, hit it long anymore. I think Dan mentioned earlier in our podcast that on our group chat, that I think he's played like a 4-2-3-1 formation at Cambridge with Lyle Taylor up front. So maybe he's evolved himself as a manager. Maybe he's not quite the guy that wants to go long and hit the ball to your big target man anymore. However, like I said, hearing him talking on that Millwall TV earlier, he seemed that he was up for it. You could see he's got a bit between his teeth. He's got a lot of fire in his belly, and he'll want his players to match and replicate what he's feeling at the moment. I just don't think that's Roman Esse, sadly. So, we'll see what happens over the next couple of games, but I'll be very surprised if he starts him.
And Jay, same kind of question to you. Obviously, again, another player that Harris had in his side, and I think the comment was he was unplayable in training, was Fred Onyedinma. So clearly saw the youngsters behind the scenes. Do you think that what's your gut telling you? Is he going to give the youngsters a chance to try and get us out of trouble, or do you think he'll go to experience first, and then if that doesn't work, then go to some of the younger players?
I think the Neil Harris of old, we would expect him to go with the bigger, robust, more experienced, more, tougher type players. How has he evolved? We don't know. I think Esse has, over the last couple of weeks, proven he can nick a goal. No one else seems to be able to do that at the moment. There's much better talent with these youngsters than what Harris had. And we didn't have a real big pot of it. I know Billy Mitchell come from, I think he gave that day he was talking about Wigan, Alfie Pavey, I believe, went up front and I think it nicked a goal. It might have been Pavey, it might have been the other youngster. I think he will be willing to, not to start with, because let's make it like you've got 13 games. This isn't a time to be testing the theory of, bringing the youngsters through. This isn't a time of, let's start building now. We have to stay up. If there is someone that's going to play Harris's way of football, that plays in that same position as Esse, they are going to play over Esse. Youth will not be the reason why. It will purely be down to Harris's way of playing. I just want to read something, if you don't mind. This is what Harris has said earlier, is that strong leadership is needed, a Millwall identity. I'm not talking about just on the pitch with style of play. I'm talking about around the ground, building that connection between the terraces and the pitch. I want to build that confidence, belief in players, and I want them to see me standing on the sideline, leading them as a Millwall person. I want them to look at me and know that I know what it takes to succeed at this football club. Passion from the players has to be there. The fans have to see it. My teams have always had that, and that will not change now. The fans want a Millwall team they can be proud of. They want them to have a go, the togetherness, the harmony. That's what I need to bring. We've got a massive fight in front of us. The players are good enough, so it's up to me to give them the confidence and belief to do that.
I'm not going to lie, I've got a bit of a hard on hearing that. I've got a bit of a twinge now there.
That's a war cry. That is a typical Millwall war cry. Now, exactly. Is someone like Esse going to respond the way that someone like Murray Wallace, from a physicality standpoint and mentality standpoint, is he going to respond the same way? I don't think so. But
I'll tell you what though, Jay, sorry to interrupt you there, mate. But
no.
If he does respond, Esse, to that, and he adds that to his game, what a fucking player he's going to be for us.
Absolutely. Excellent.
So I personally, that's the only thing that's missing in his game at the moment. Is that bit of aggression and that strength,
It looked like he bulked up over the last few months. When he went out the side from the beginning of the season, he did look like he got a bit more physicality in his game, and which was pleasing to see. Over the last few weeks, he's definitely been challenging for balls a little bit more.
Some stuff on Instagram. He's kind of posted things about him going to the gym, but I'll be honest
with you, he definitely looks bigger. But again, like I said, I don't think this is the time to have these experiments now. I don't think Harris is going to, while he may have a good intentions of wanting to do that, I just don't think we're in a position. This is win now. Whoever's going to, whoever's going to respond better to Neil Harris in this next coming week and a half, that's who's going to go out there and ride the ship to the end, I think.
Yeah. With that question, Jay, and I guess it's a point we could all answer together collectively. It'd probably take too long to go through all four of us. But who do you think starts for Neil Harris? Supposedly he goes for a 4-4-2 or a 4-4-1-2, whatever you want to call it. What sort of players in our squad that are available that he picks, in your opinion? I don't know who wants to go first in that one.
I'll go first. What if I'm picking the team that I think?
No, if you're Neil Harris, who would Neil Harris pick? What's a Neil Harris sort of player?
I think we'll see Ryan Leonard maybe return to midfield. I think the second Sean Hutchinson's fit, he'll come back in. I think it will keep Bradshaw up front. I think Bradshaw's definitely type of striker. And I did see someone in the comments say Amaku, and I think Amaku's someone who's going to fit into that as well. I know Amaku's younger, but I think he's developed quicker than SA, certainly from a physical point of view. So I think he's someone Harris is going to turn to and rely on.
So starting Bradshaw, that will mean that either Obafemi or Fleming will probably lose their place. Is that quite a bold move?
If it's 4-4-2, I think he goes with Fleming up top. If it's 4-2-3-1, Fleming goes in the 10, which is what we've all been saying. Fleming has to play in the 10.
I don't play Obafemi.
Well, it's not a bad super sub to have, is it? But you read all sorts of things around the club, don't you? Like I think we've all seen the Obafemi rumours. Obviously, if they're true, that's not going to fit into Harris's mentality, is it?
No,
he ain't going to get a look in if any of them.
But also, Dan, what do you do with the goalkeeper situation? Because obviously there's a lot of uproar about the goalkeeper at the moment. With Bart, that's tried and tested hands.
Yeah.
How do you think Harris responds to that? And also, I would say if he does play 4-4-2, do we even have the wingers to play a 4-4-2?
Well, we haven't had the wingers all season. That's our problem. I'll touch on another player actually in a moment. It's one that came up in our group chat earlier. I think it might have been Stephen who brought up the player's name. But just on the that question, I don't think you can change the goalkeepers given the position we're in, unless Sarkic was to get injured again. I'm still backing Sarkic, to be honest. I think what people are forgetting is that Bart is like 36 years old. I think he might even be 37 now. Even for a goalkeeper you're starting, that's coming out of your peak. And I know he had a run in the team, but he's been back on the bench since. He's going to be a bit more rusty now, isn't he? I know there's going to be probably, we can almost say with some degree of certainty, less playing football, which would obviously suit Bart's game a bit more. But I think I personally can't see him doing it.
Dan, just to interject there. There's a couple of comments about will he change captain. We will get to that in a minute because I think that's something that needs to be addressed. Sorry, who Dan or Joe, whoever was.
I was just going to pick up on Jay's point quickly as well about do we have the wingers? Maybe he might look at it and go, well, I don't have the wingers to play this, so maybe we're doing maybe we'll go for the diamond formation that we suggested, but maybe someone who might get a second chance, and Stephen mentioned it earlier, is Alan Campbell.
100%.
Because Harris did try and sign Alan Campbell. I think it was Harris who tried to sign him when he went to Luton. I can see that as someone we're going to try and he's going to try and look at, to be honest. Maybe if he wants to play with two in midfield, I think maybe Casper and Campbell could be the way forward. Would maybe mean Honeyman can go onto the wing, possibly, because that kind of fits into maybe the type of player Harris is going to be looking at. If it's a diamond, I think maybe Campbell could be the person. He could probably play as either at the base of the diamond or just to one of the sides, not at the tip of the diamond, but on the sides.
He definitely fits Neil's type of player in Campbell. Just whether he can harness that from him, which we haven't seen. I don't, in such a short space of time, having not met the fella as well, will remain to be seen, obviously, yeah.
And also, let's not forget that Dave Livermore's going to be with him as well. And I'm sure he's not there just making the bacon butties and cups of tea and training. Yeah, he's there for a reason. So he as
hopefully
you know,
that's what Barrett's doing, keep him as far away from the training pitch.
Yeah, exactly. So historically, I know as a player, Dave Livermore was very, aggressive. He loved to tackle. Yeah. Neil Harris, would obviously appreciate that as well. So I'm pretty sure that Dave Livermore will have a say in the type of player that would play in the midfield for us. And I'm pretty sure Neil Harris will listen to him. So he'll want someone with a bit of bite in that midfield for certain. He's not going to look for players that are going to shy away from a tackle. So, it will be interesting who he picks. I would be surprised if Adam Mayer, as young as he is, I wouldn't be surprised if he gets a run in on that left side. Again, look at the old teams that Harris has been involved in as a player and as a manager. He does like a left-footed player that can sort of play that wing. And Adam Mayer, we've seen glimpses of what he can do. And yes, he's not too bad with the ball. He likes to get forward. He can put some crosses in, but he gets stuck in as well. And I think we've heard Morecambe. We've heard Morecambe fans talk about, his aggression, how he's bulked up and he's built up his strength and he's determined. And I think I wouldn't be surprised if he gets a look in. We heard Joe Edwards talk about him in training, about how he's kind of not necessarily surprised them, but a few of their heads of the senior players have looked at him and gone, cool, he's a player.
Yeah.
And I think that's where it starts. It stems from training, and once you prove yourself in training, you then get a chance in the first team. So it'd be interesting. I mean, again, go back to my point earlier. I think Neil Harris is like a little school kid in a sweet shop at the moment, where he's probably thinking, I'm back at Millwall, rubbing his hands, looking around, thinking, fuck me, I've got some players here. And no wonder he's excited and up for it.
Just for the benefit of anyone listening on the podcast, this will be put out as 2 parts. So at this point, it's about to end, and then it will obviously restart back. So welcome back. A comment that's just come up that's quite interesting that I thought, and this is something you talk about wingers. I think you're right, Joe, 100%. Adam Mayer down the left-hand side could get a real look in. I think Harris will be looking for balance and width from both sides. This, which is what we've kind of been saying for a while. Brooke Norton-Cuffy right mid, Danny Mack right back. I think that is an absolute certainty down the right hand side. If you're playing 4-4-2, that's the combination that I would go with. And I think I don't do comparing players or anything like that, but I think Neil Harris has always, as you say, in teams he's played with or managed, he brought Jed Wallace to the club. He wants wingers. He wants people taking players on. Adam Mayer will do it on the left. Brooke Norton-Cuffy will certainly do it on the right. So I think we might be okay with wingers.
Then where does that leave Idemo? Because I think at the moment it's quite hard to justify not really having him in the team.
He'll probably come off the bench, to be fair.
You think he isn't warranting a start? I
don't think he'll start immediately, because let's be honest, Neil Harris wouldn't know who the fuck Idemo is, really, would he? So I think he'll probably start off on the bench. He'll go with the more experienced to start off with, as you said, possibly Bradshaw and Fleming up front. But all it takes is a couple of substitute appearances. Yeah, he can see what he's going to do, how he lifts the crowd, take players on, creates chances, and then he'll probably get a chance in the first team. But I think initially, players like Esse and Maku will probably sit on the bench, start off with, and they have to earn their right to play under Neil Harris.
Yeah, it's going to be with what he's going to go with what he knows first, isn't he?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's the main thing.
And one thing's for certain, I can guarantee you, the first player that he will put on that starting sheet is Danny McNamara. I guarantee you that, because he wants someone out there who's Mr. Millwall. He wants someone who's going to put tackles in, be determined. There's no way he'll play Norton-Cuffy right back. Or anyone else for that matter, unless Danny's injured, he'll probably play Leonard there. But Danny McNamara is the sort of person I think he would go for. He wants someone in there to show the others what they're expecting, what he'll want from them as a player.
So on the back of that, then, where do we go on the pairing at centre half? Because outside of Cooper and with Hutchison being injured, there isn't a centre half at the club that Harris knows. Now, I know Tanganga's got this pedigree coming from the Premier League. Harding come in, had a slight resurgence and played well to start with. But so on that decision, who do you play alongside Cooper, assuming Cooper is obviously the one to start for Harris's I know you kind of formation?
Yeah. I mean, personally, sorry to interrupt there, guys. If I was to answer that question, personally, I wouldn't play Cooper. As great as Cooper's been for us, he's been a great servant. I think football's evolved now. The Championship is a difficult league. There's lots of fast, athletic strikers you're playing against, and we've seen so many times him getting caught out, which is quite remarkable, because you look at all the goals we conceded, the last 13 goals. We did a piece on it online. Cooper is not really to blame for many of those. Most of the problems have come from Joe Bryan or Wes Harding or one or two other players, but Cooper hasn't really put a foot wrong. But what he does, he creates the problems. By him stepping out up the pitch or letting a player go past him, he creates problems. So I would go with Ryan Leonard and Tanganga as a centre half partnering. To your question, Jay, I think Neil will go with Cooper, because he'll go with someone who he's tried and tested. Hutch not being available, who's going to be the partner? He'll probably go Tanganga, although everything is telling him to go with someone like Ryan Leonard, who's, again, a bit of a Mr. Millwall sort of player. I can't help but feel you can't deny that Tanganga is from a better pedigree. He's a Premiership player. However you want to paint it up, he comes from a Premiership pedigree, and I think he'll use him as he's at his disposal.
Do you know what? Do you know what? I don't think he would do this, but this is what I think I'd do, to be honest. I would take Cooper out of the team. He's not playing very well. We're coming on to the captain talk in a minute, but he's not a captain. I think that's blatantly obvious.
Mm.
I would put Tanganga at left back, to be honest, because we're just getting rinsed down that side week in, week out, playing Murray Wallace and Joe Bryan. I would see what Tanganga could do down there. He's got the pace, he's got the physicality.
True.
I think I'd probably go with him there. I'd then probably move Murray Wallace back into the centre half position, because I think he looks a little bit more comfortable there.
I was going to say that he did that under Harris quite a lot as well, and he was a real good performer under Harris. I know he's got some more tread on the tyres, but that would be the logical thing that I would do for Harris's peace of mind of what he knows he can get out of these players. Playing them both together as centre half, they've done it a lot before under Harris. I think that could be the way he goes.
Yeah, I think Cooper on the bench. I think it's got to be Leonard and Murray. I'd pick Leonard and Murray Wallace personally, with Tanganga at left back, Danny Mack right back, as the back four this weekend. Personally,
I'll be honest with you. I actually thought on Saturday, and I know Sheffield Wednesday stepped off us a little bit, and the game just kind of petered out. But I thought Danny McNamara shifting over to left back was an interesting proposition. Look, we all know he's a right back, and I'm not a fan of having a right-footed left back. But if you wanted to, if you wasn't sure on Murray Wallace because of his pace, you don't have Joe Bryan, who I don't really think Joe Bryan is a Neil Harris type player. I don't see. No. There was a comment about Bryan saying, would he run through? There it is. That will Joe Bryan get off his Starbucks for Sir Harris run through walls? I don't think he would, and I just don't see that personally. So the option you've got, the option you've got is Danny McNamara shifting over or putting a centre half out there. Tanganga possibly, but I wouldn't be adverse to it, because I think you could see the likes of maybe Leonard or even Tanganga being more comfortable if he's not playing at centre half, playing on the right hand side rather than putting him out on the left. I think you're right, Joe, when you say that he'll go with tried and tested, and I think Jake Cooper will play at the back on Saturday. I don't agree with it, and I don't particularly want that to be the case. There was a comment that was put up earlier about Jake Cooper walking down the tunnel at full time like he did on Saturday. That's not what you do at this football club, and it's certainly not what you do. Yeah, it's certainly not what you do as a captain of this football club, which leads us on very nicely to the captaincy. There's not really a lot of contenders.
There isn't, is there? It's slightly concerning, especially when Harris said in his speech about leadership as well.
Yeah,
absolutely, and that's what I have a little bit of a concern with, because until Hutchinson's back, I think Hutchinson will take the armband whenever he's back, but he's not. We know he's not going to be back for a couple of weeks. Does he leave it with Cooper? Does he give it to someone else? For me, someone who's going to play every single week, in my opinion, in this team in the middle, someone who's got a little bit of bite and a little bit of fight in the middle, would be George Honeyman. He would be my captain, and I think he's the sort of player that Neil Harris would absolutely love in his team, someone who doesn't give up, that never say die attitude. Any thoughts on that, or other names into the hat?
Wasn't George Honeyman captain at Hull? I'm not saying for the whole, and Sunderland as well, and he's quite young at Sunderland, to be fair. He's given that captaincy, which is a big ask of a young player. I wouldn't disagree with that. I think Honeyman would be someone who would play for the armband and lead by example. I quite like the idea of Zian Fleming being captain. Only reason being is he's arguably one of our best players. The last 3 or 4 games, you can see that he's got a bit of an appetite. There's a bit of bite about, a bit of fire in his belly. He's trying to help us. And in recent games, he's probably been the only player that looks like he's even trying, which is great. And I can't help but feel someone like Zian Fleming, who might have a bit of an ego, let's be honest. He probably knows he's a good player. He's quite a confident player. Having that armband will probably give another 5-10% out of him as well, which is quite exciting to see what more can Zian Fleming do. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Zian Fleming get the armband as well. But I think you're right. Cooper will probably get it, or Hutchinson by default if they're fit and available. That's basically how it would be.
Jay, any other names to throw into the hat?
Few people have mentioned George Saville, and I'm pretty on board with George Saville. I don't think he will start under Neil Harris, which is probably why he won't be. But Saville does show that fight on the field sometimes. You know, when he took that player out at Norwich, you know, when he was going for a goal, he's always in the referee's ear. He's always niggling at other players. Saville has got that about him. I just don't think he's going to start. Joe's exactly right with what he said, and I agree 100%. Zian Fleming, before the Sheffield Wednesday game, put out a picture of himself with his arm around his teammates, his shirt on show, saying, look, this is a massive game. We need to get up for this. We need everyone together. Bit of a captain's mentality. He throws himself about. He gets stuck in. He's very physical. He's let's face it, our best player. He's underwhelmed from last year. Still leads the team in assists, goals, chances created, and so on. I think with what Joe said, he's absolutely right. He will get an extra 5-10% out of him. I think he will relish it. I think he will take it with open arms. And I think he will be the best candidate out there because he's going to probably start every game. I don't think Neil Harris is going to drop someone like that purely because he hasn't had a player like that. This is a whole new set of toys for Neil Harris. When you've got Casper Denores and Zian Flemings, you don't just sit them to the side to play your mates, you know. I like the Honeyman debate. I really do. I think he gets stuck in more than anyone. He has an engine. He has a bit of a better Ben Thompson vibe about him. I thought Harris loved that about Ben Thompson, that he had that real short man energy, that he was all around the pitch and he'd give 110%. I think Honeyman would be the one that starts with Casper Denore. And I'll toss it up between, if I was to put names on it, 3 names in the hat would be Zian, Honeyman and Sav, to be fair.
What about Leonard, Jay? How do you feel about Ryan Leonard being captain?
I just don't think Leonard can. I love Leonard for what he does for us. I think he's first name on the team sheet if he's fit. I think he's fantastic. Don't really see him talking too much. I think people may think of Leonard as a longevity thing. He's been here for a while, and there's that bit of love for Leonard. You know, I think they're thinking more with their heart rather than being realistic. Is he a leader? Is he a captain? There's also the question up as if Harris does play forward at the back, where does Leonard fit into that? Does he be the first name in midfield next to Casper Denore, or do we play him at a right back or a centre half? So there's the questions up in the air, I think, with Leonard starting place. So for that reason, I don't think he would be above the players that we've already mentioned.
And also, I think, to your point there, to pick a captain, you've got to be, apart from being a very influential player, of course, and a starter, you have to be a presence on the field. And I agree with you. I think someone like Zian Fleming is that presence. Yeah. I can see other teams looking at him thinking, wow, this guy's their best player. When we come to kickoff, he's the one there going for the toss, intimidating the opposition, them thinking, Jesus, like, look, I've got in front of me here, and kind of driving the team. So, but it's a big decision Neil's got to make here. Does he take the captaincy and the vice captaincy of Hutch and Cooper this early? I can't see it happening because he'll want to get players on board at the moment. The last thing he wants to do is upset players. And, these players, as we probably all know, they can be quite childish. They're like a big bunch of kids sometimes, half of them, and taking an armband of someone will probably disrupt not just that player, but probably upset a few of their them teammates as well.
Well, didn't Harris make Hutchinson captain in the first place?
I think he did.
You're right. Yeah, good point. Yeah,
and if he's only a few weeks away, I wouldn't give it to anyone else anyway. If the Hutchinson's back in the fold, Hutchinson's the captain. Because
100%.
We raised this on Saturday that Cooper, for all of the mistakes he's made, and people are up in the air about Cooper. When he plays with Sean Hutchinson, he's a completely different centre half, and we are a completely different defence. We're so much better because of Hutchinson. He was even the same when Cooper played with Creswell. When he's got someone physical, someone who talks right next to him, who can keep him in check, Cooper's fantastic.
You're
now,
right.
If Hutchinson comes back into fold, I don't really. Does anybody know how far his setback is? No, is he scheduled to come back in the next couple of weeks?
I think they said it a few weeks, and that was about almost a week ago, wasn't it? I think he's a few weeks away. So I'm guessing he's like anything from 2 to 3 weeks. I've just seen that comment there from Le Bleu. Bonjour. I'm pretty sure it was you that I saw. Just remind me if it was by the blue bus on when was it? On Sunday. When was it? Sunday our last game? Saturday.
Saturday.
So yeah. Good to meet you if it was you. I think you said it was you. I think I made a comment to you saying you're the guy that gives me abuse online all the time. So if it is you, yeah, let me know. But no, that's good. I think, you know, I guess
was Joe. There you go.
It was. Okay, mate.
Yeah.
Okay, good to meet you, mate. No, I just don't think that the captaincy at the moment is going to change at all. And I agree with what the guy is saying there. And Jay, if Hutch is available, yeah, and plays, he's captain. It's a bit of a no-brainer. But I think at the moment, what we need is everyone out there to be a captain, don't we? We all want everybody to perform with or without that captaincy armband on. It's a little bit irrelevant who's got it. We just need someone out there, a team of leaders that are going to play for each other, fight for each other. And as Harris said earlier in his video, fight for the badge. And I love that. I never heard Rowett or Joe Edwards in the last 4 or 5 years mention that sentence, fight for the badge or fight for the shirt. You never heard that mentioned before, have
100%.
you?
100%. Just before we carry on, and yes, I know I'm going to bore people to death with this quickly. One of our kind listeners, John Reynolds, who's a friend of mine, is season ticket holder. A lot of you would probably know him. Actually, on the back of my charity gaming stuff, wanted to help out raise some more funds, and he donated to me Byron Webster's signed shirt from Tony Craig's testimonial. I'm putting it up for a raffle. The link is going into the chat now. If you want to enter, pop that into your web browser. It's £5 a ticket. All the money goes to mine charity. I've got all the authenticity certificate and stuff like that. So if you're into memorabilia,
just to clarify, it's not a Bromley shirt, is it?
No, it's one second.
Can you show us, Stephen?
Yeah, I've got it. And yes, I've stood up, and no, I'm not in shorts, guys. I know that's coming. That's all you guys ever seem to go on about. But to prove, it's match worn as well. So
look at that.
As you can see,
yellow, beautiful yellow.
Nice.
Tony Craig's testimonial, and as you can see, signed on the back as well.
Speaking of tried and tested in Tony Craig, is he dusting his boots off? We're getting a contract ready for
well, that's it. That leads me. That actually, Dan, leads me on very, very nicely. Do we think there was a lot of talk about other players? Aidan O'Brien commented, and all sorts of rumours have been going around about Lee Gregory or anything like that. Do we expect Harris to bring in anybody else, potentially any old mates, or do you think now? Obviously, we're not going to be in the Do you think so?
No.
Well, I can't see it happening, to be honest with you, but if he could, he would.
I would have said Alan Dunn as well. I would have said
Alan Dunn's the coaching staff. Yeah, no way. Morrison won't give up being a number one.
No. But, yeah, we don't know how that's going to work out, whether he's going to stay much longer or not. If he does, with fair play to him, but if he's available, you know, we know how Morrison respects Neil Harris, you know, and I wouldn't be surprised seeing part of our coaching setup, even if it's just for 6 months or a season until he finds a management job somewhere else.
You're all right, Connor. I'll be honest with you. I don't think there'll be any older faces coming back. I think that, you know, it's the nostalgia. We get all of that kind of stuff. But I personally think Neil Harris has come in. Yeah, he's an older move, and we've gone back to Dave Livermore as well. But if Neil Harris is talking about how much experience he's gained and how much he's learned about football and management and this, that, and the other, you can only go on what he says. I'm not so sure about those comments. I feel like he didn't really need to say them, considering that he has dropped down divisions, but he says he's a different coach now, so we have to take that on face value. If you're a different person than what you were, you don't go back to what you were. You move on with what you've got, and you stick with you go with the players that you've got, and you go in a different direction. I know that might be contradictory, because as a football club, we've just appointed a manager that was our manager 5 years ago. But in terms of if Harris wants to move forward and wants to be taken seriously, I don't think he can be afforded to bring him back anybody like that. He needs to be moving forward and working with this group of players and go from there. Personally,
also, just a quick question. I think you mentioned, Stephen, our WhatsApp group earlier. I don't want to put a downer on it or be negative in any way, shape, or form, but I think you made a good point on our group chat. How many managers have gone back to a team second time around and have done as well or better? You can name any teams, whether it be Mourinho at Chelsea or. Yeah, there's not many, have they, that actually come back and kept that legacy going or done better, or usually they come back, they're not quite as good as they were last time. It doesn't get quite worked out. I really hope that Neil Harris breaks the mould in this one, But yeah, there is no guarantees, but we're hoping that he'll pull some miracles for us. And
the only thing I think with what you just said there, Joe, as well, is that a lot of managers that do that are, quite seasoned. They've been around a long time. Your Roy Hodgsons, your Jose Mourinho's. Neil Harris is still a fairly young manager. He's still a fairly young guy. He's probably still adapted his trade. Getting the job with us to start with was a massive job for him. He's bounced around a little bit. I honestly do believe he's learnt a hell of a lot. He's been in some bad situations. He's been in some good situations. And he's bounced around the leagues. I think if he does stay away from the 4-4-2 and shows us he has adapted, we don't know what type of coach Neil Harris is going to be, because he is still a young coach. He could be the Millwall manager for the next couple of years. He could keep us up. I think it's really out on Harris at the moment. I don't think anything is set in stone, because he is such a young coach and still learning the job. So I'm quite excited to see some change. I think Harris could be doing that, but as you said earlier, if Harris goes 4-4-2, that's where we're at, aren't we? And he may not have, or as he going 4-4-2 just because of the situation. I don't think we could judge Harris on these 13 games as such, but the 18-month contract does give a little bit of an indication of where we might go.
Absolutely.
I think it's, again, we're going back to the short term, aren't we? We don't need to think long term at the moment. Short term, we need to stay up. We need to get a few wins this season to keep us safe, and whatever happens in the future. If he does go 4-4-2, what I would say is that these players, albeit it's only been under a few months under Joe Edwards' coaching, I'm sure a lot of these players have learnt a lot under Joe Edwards. They probably picked up some good stuff. They played some good football at times. We've seen it for ourselves. If Neil Harris wants to become a little bit more rigid and a little bit more direct and everything else, you're never going to make a good player a bad player, are you? If there's a pass or if there's an opportunity to play a ball through the lines, they're going to do it. They're not going to go long just for the sake of going long, are they? So maybe, the way that Joe Edwards got them playing with a little bit of more grit and fire and passion from Neil Harris is probably all we need in order for us to convert some of these losses to draws or wins, So we'll see.
Yeah, absolutely. And Dan, just something that I think I'm going to mention this, and you're going to love it, and we'll see what kind of reaction. You were at Plymouth away.
Yes, it was.
And well, it's probably probably the longest running standing joke with you on the channel about Plymouth away. You were at Plymouth away.
At least we've managed to have a fucking joke this season, something, and not just our defensive.
We were at Sheffield Wednesday away, Watford away, which was 2-2, which we were unlucky not to win. Do you think the fact that we had the new manager bounce for one game under Joe Edwards, and then it all kind of went wrong? Neil Harris has always been a new manager bounce type of character. He did it at Gillingham when he first went in. He did it at Cambridge when he first went in. I know
he did it at Cardiff as well before, didn't he?
Yeah, I know things might have dropped off, and people will say about the style of football, and I get that, and I really do. But do you think perhaps that, I know we were talking about this earlier, but do you think the new manager bounce going into an away game where we're not expected to get a lot? We're both going. I think, Joe, you said you were as well. Do you think that the club have probably thought about that Harris does have this knack of coming in and getting a result early doors, and that's why it's now?
Yeah, that's why I've lumped 20 quid on Jake Cooper anytime goal scorer and Millwall to win 1-0, mate. So
Jake Cooper headed, wasn't it?
Yeah, Jake Cooper headed, that was it. No. Yeah, he's got a good track record. He goes in place and gets results immediately. As we said at Cambridge, he has only been there for a short amount of time. Their fans are absolutely livid, by the way. I don't know if anyone's been reading what Cambridge.
Yeah, I mentioned it earlier. They're fuming.
They're really upset. But yeah, I think it shows that he can go in, he can get results. He is a firefighter appointment. At this point in time, there is no denying that. So I think they've done it with that in mind. Obviously, if they brought in someone in a similar vein to Edwards, it's going to take time to implement that style. We don't have time. Harris is going to strip it back to quite basics. We're assuming none of us have really seen too much of what he's played in these last few clubs. But we know he's going to be stripped fairly back to basic. Might cover for some of the limitations of the team in other areas.
It's interesting you say that, Dan. Sorry to jump in, but that's what Edwards did that first game at Sheffield Wednesday away. He went 4-4-2. He went back to basics, and we played good football, and we won the game resoundingly. And then he went away from it. Now, Harris, like you just said, is probably going to do something similar. If it does need the same result, is that the route we go down? Is that we go, this is obviously how the team can progress playing this way? Do we match that for the rest of the season?
Yeah.
Just before we go, sorry, Dan, just before we... Danny Chappell, how many points do you honestly think we'll need to stay out? We will come back to that point. So that's something that we'll discuss a little bit later on. Sorry, Dan, go on.
I've lost my train of thought now.
Talking about Edwards started with the 4-4-2 and then changed.
Listen, at this point in time where we are, I know most of us were complaining about how shit Rowett's football was. At this point in time, for the rest of the season, it doesn't matter too much. We just need to focus on getting points.
Doesn't matter how, does it? We need to stay up.
If we have 20% possession and win 1-0 for every game of the season for the rest of the season,
we're not
fantastic. That'll do me. We'll probably be in the playoffs if we do that.
I'm clipping that. I'm absolutely clipping that.
Well, if we could hold on to 1-0 leads, like we said earlier, we would probably be in the shot with the playoffs. I said we said it last on Saturday as well. We're first in the divisions, 24 points from winning positions. We've shown we can produce the formula to win a game. We just can't see it out. The appointment of Harris is going to be. It will hopefully galvanise that and stop that from happening. If you could merge Harris and Edwards, you'd probably have the perfect coach.
And also, what's interesting, sorry to interrupt you, Steve, what's interesting is that Neil Harris as a player, as a manager, always believes in hard work, having fit players. He did it when he was younger as a player, when he had the likes of Stephen Reid, Tim Cahill, Paul Ifill, whatever. These players were good. Yes, technically they weren't bad players, but it's all about effort. It's about desire, work rate, being fitter than your opposition. When he was a manager, he got his players doing the same thing.
We were fit under Harris, really fit for some reason.
Absolutely. And when Rowett took over, I noticed there's a real decline in our fitness levels. We never ever questioned our players' fitness levels until Rowett took over. When Joe Edwards took over, I think he's helped it a little bit. We've all seen a bit of improvement, but it isn't up to the levels of when Neil Harris is in charge. I think Joe being Joe is talking more about the technical part of it and how we're playing the football. One of the things that Neil Harris will do is get that fitness level back up again. I think another reason why we keep going ahead in games and giving away sloppy goals at the end and making mistakes, whatever, I think a lot of that is down to fitness, whether that be fatigue, exactly that. And I think that's something that he'll probably work on. Again, nothing's going to change over the next couple of days, but over the next couple of weeks, I think he will really push hard on fitness levels and getting players up to the level they need to be at. And with this talented group of players we've got, add a little bit of fitness in that as well. It's quite frightening how we can be under Harris,
Absolutely. And before we will come back to the how many points and whatnot. It's something I wanted to say, but this comment here from just what I'm going to put on this from Mike. Full house next home, and he's commented again to say home game now. I think that's one of the things that bringing Neil Harris has done. There'll be people, whether they like it or not, whether they admit it or not, that will be buying a ticket for Watford at home because Neil Harris is Millwall manager. There's no two ways about it. I don't care what anyone says. People can slag him off and be negative. It's 2 steps back or whatever, which there are valid. You can validate those points. There'll be people going to the game now against Watford because Neil Harris is Millwall manager and they want to see just what changes there might be made. And again, a masterstroke. We talk about, coincidentally, we've got to play Watford and Leicester at home. Now, both Watford and Leicester were part of that infamous cup run where we made it to Spurs in the quarterfinal. We beat both of them at home and we did... Leicester, we were down to 10 men and they had more chances than us. But Harris found a way of winning big games. He found a way of, when the better teams come to town, unsettling them. teams hated playing us under Neil. You know, the Leeds, the Norwiches, the QPRs. They didn't like it. So I just think it's a very interesting time for Harris to be brought in, because I feel like some of the games we've got coming up at home are certainly winnable, and he's got that experience behind him. So I think that's something to keep an eye on.
Also, to that point, again, the fans can relate to Neil Harris. I think Jay mentioned it earlier. First and foremost, he's a Millwall fan. You can see that quite clearly, and it's just the small things he does on the sidelines. I never forget that time when Jake Cooper scored the equaliser against Everton. And I think there was a problem there. And he's asking them to turn the camera off. They kept showing the replay.
It was the handball, wasn't it?
The handball.
He knocked it from heaven. Yeah.
I'll never forget that. Him screaming up at the box, saying, "What are you doing? Turn it off! Turn it off!" Just that rawness of Neil. When he's just so one of our own in that aspect. And I think he will bring a lot of emotions and passion back into that. And if we do get some full houses, which I'm hoping we will do over the next few games, especially at home, we can make that den a fortress again. It hasn't been a fortress since Neil Harris left, let's be honest. And if we're going to pick up any wins, especially at home, we need that place to be rocking and rolling. I reckon we can do that under Neil.
We went on some major runs under Neil Harris at home. I think we had 16 games unbeaten at home. But we was a real. I think that's where the fortress meant to come from. Under Neil Harris, we were such a force at home. The den was
away from home. We struggled, didn't we, Jay?
It was away from home we struggled, and I think we've been a lot better away from home. I think even under Edwards, we haven't even been that bad away from home. We put some good performances away at Leicester, Watford,
Coventry, was a really good Coventry, half hour,
and so on. So I think away from home, the players don't feel as much pressure. And they could play a little bit more freely. It's at home the troubles have come. But with someone like Harris on the sideline, one of us, I think it will just galvanise the squad for the full 90 minutes. And we will pick up some points at home under the Harris regime now, guaranteed, just based off of pure fight and will alone. I really do.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And again, we spoke earlier on this show. It seems like we've been on it for a while. We have been on it for a while. Best part of is it 2 hours now? But
hour and a half.
Hour and a half. Okay. So again, mixed emotions this morning. When you're hearing about the news, you're thinking, what the hell are we doing? Like, why are we going backwards? When we should be looking at evolving and growing as a club. But the more I keep thinking about it, and the more we talk about it on this show tonight, the more I'm thinking, what a masterclass from Millwall. To bring in someone like Neil Harris, who's going to galvanise our team, get the fans on board. Get that den pumping again, get against Watford next week. And let's be honest, if you're a Watford fan at the moment, you'd be shitting yourself thinking, fuck, here we go. Typical,
You're absolutely right, Joe. The needle doesn't move for many fans, and I can understand why. But there is only 13 games left. You can't get someone, they're going to need a month to install their policies, install their regime, meet the players, find out his best formation. We haven't got that time. Now, whilst people may not like Neil Harris's football or like the hire, you have to like the direction the club have gone to install that we need the fight right now from the get-go, the second 100%. It's announced. And Neil Harris is the only person out there who can install that. There is no one else.
Completely agree.
I think that's the big thing. Mike just put here, never thought I'd hear a masterclass from Millwall in the same sentence.
I can't believe that. The words came out of my mouth. I was thinking, what the fuck did I just say just then?
I do think that you do have to take it with a pinch of salt, because we are still in a dire situation with our players. You don't know how they're going to react. You don't know how the Southampton game's going to go. And it's not like Neil Harris doesn't have a magic wand. Let's be honest. He's not going to be able to come in and go, right, here we go, lads. We're going to sort it all out and bang, we're going to win every game. What I would say on the fact that you talk about the whole master stroke is there's people like us that have gone to home game after home game after home game, and we just don't win. We just don't win games of football. And you leave the ground. I don't know about you guys. I walk back to my car, go back with my dad, and you're saying, "Oh, we could have done this, we could have done that." And then the next week it's the same, and the next week it's the same. It's the same thing week after week, and it's so frustrating. And all I would say, and it might not work, and I'm not stupid enough to just think, "Oh, it's Neil Harris. He's God. He's magic. He's going to do this." But at least we will be coming out of games thinking, I don't think we could have done much more today, or the effort. You won't be questioning the effort or or you won't be thinking players have not tried. They will try. If they're beaten, and we have to accept that. But
That's
they
the
will
biggest
try.
thing, Steve. I'm sorry to jump in, but
That's all right.
I've said it last week on Saturday. I said it with Dan. Is that I've been in the stands when we've been pumped 5-0. We've cut the players off the pitch because of the performances that's been there. It's not the losing we could take at Millwall. We're not a massive club. We know we're not Barcelona. We lose a lot of football games at Millwall, but we've always been very proud of how we play football.
It's how
and the
you
fight
lose as
that's
well, isn't it,
installed on
Jay?
the pitch. And it's how we're losing these football games. We lost some games under Harris, but it was never for the want to try. And all them players and the management knew what it took to win games of football at Millwall. And it was always forgiven for losing. We have always been a club that, as long as you give 110%, we'll accept the outcomes. Sometimes we won't, but we'll accept it as long as you play for that shirt, because playing for this shirt means more than it does at other clubs. And other managers just don't quite get that. And let's make it right. Sheffield Wednesday didn't beat us. If just didn't beat us, we gave them games. We gave them the goals
100%.
that they scored, and we fell on our own sword. They didn't push us on it. And Neil Harris will turn that around. And if we get beat, you will have to come and beat us at the Den, because we won't give it to you under Neil Harris. That's the fact.
Playing for that shirt, playing for the badge. You hear every club talk about this, but I don't think it matters. To your point, there, Joe, I don't think it matters as much as it really does when Millwall say it. You know, and this stems from our generation, from earlier generations. You know, it's always been one of our biggest points is that, you know, when you play for Millwall, you play for the badge. Yeah. And like I said, I haven't heard Rowett or Joe Edwards mention that line about playing for the badge. The only person I've heard say that in recent times is Neil Harris. And it's so refreshing to hear him say it today, because that's what's missing. I think we do need that passion back.
We do have live from Tenerife, 8 pints deep, sunburnt, Ben Green, Neil Harris, Champions League Lions 2026, heard it here first.
Did he say that about Joe Edwards?
And then he changed it to Adam Barrett in the week.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, yeah, he did. Just out of interest, I did say to him that I was going to out him and say, if the guys in the comments want to see an 8 pints deep, sunburnt to hell Ben in Tenerife join us live for 5 minutes, if you just comment yes,
it'll be redder than Dan, won't he? Oh, Ben.
Look, you know, we're talking with Southampton 7-0 is 151.
Jesus
less of that. Less of that.
Is he a Southampton fan?
The under 18s are 1-1 at the moment for anybody that's
on them.
that's interested. They're still going. I just, you know, I'm not. I said this earlier. I like to think I'm not naive, and I still think we're going to go to Southampton. It's going to be really tough. They could go.
We're obviously fucking naive, mate.
We could go 1-0 up, 2-0 up, but still absolutely get battered. But the big thing, and the thing that gives me hope, is the fact that you boys have been talking about it. We've all been talking about it. That there's one man that can walk into the club from day one and get it. Yeah. And that's Neil Harris, and he's done it before. So I think it's important. And you know, we're talking about, you know, what style we might play and who might play, who might be captain. The question come up earlier about the points that we might need. I am just in the process of bringing up the championship table. So I believe, apart from 2 teams who have played 32, everyone else is on 33. But the 2 that haven't, they're not anything really to do with
us.
And Birmingham perhaps they're 5 points ahead of us. But so as it stands, with 33 points from 33 games, 13 games to go, point gap between us and QPR. Realistically, it'll go round the table. Dan, we'll start with you. How many points do you think we need to be safe this year? So where do we need to get to?
48, I'll say. So
that's 15 points. Joe, any other...
I'm going for 4 wins, 2 draws, which will put us on 47 points. And I think that's very, very achievable, very, very realistic, especially under someone like Harris, who, like I said, he will roll the dice. There will be some games we'll lose, but I guarantee you he'll definitely win a few as well.
And Jay?
I'm going to go with 45 points, but a minimum of 4 wins in that.
Okay, so and again, all three of you, Jay, we'll go back to you first, and we'll go back the way in reverse. Does 45 points keep us up?
Yeah, I think it does. I think the only real threat are the two below us and the two above us. They've all got to play each other. Looking at the fixtures that are coming out, they've all got similar routes to safety as us. I think 45 for me would be enough. That's 12 points from where we are.
Yeah, I can see like Plymouth dropping straight into that. Yeah, they're in a run of bad form. Their manager struggling. And they've obviously got a small squad as well. And we know how detrimental it could be to a team when you've got a small squad and you have a few injuries. It really sort of affects. So I can see them slipping into it. I think Sheffield Wednesday, for all their recent resurgence to get a win over us the other week, I think they're still going to be in there. QPR, possibly they could be in there. Rotherham, yes, fantastic fighting spirit against Southampton. But they're shit. They're going down. So I think there's definitely 3 or 4 teams that are going to be struggling at the bottom there.
Sorry, Joe. Wins. That's more like it, Chris. That's more like it. Millwall to win 7-0 on Saturday. There we go.
There you go. It's more positive. But yeah, Millwall definitely going to get a couple of wins, a few wins under the belt, and I think we'll be all right. Definitely.
Absolutely. And Dan, just before I come to you, Mickey's in the chat. Look, he's hounding now. Eddie, please press the like button. Mickey, come and join us. Join us for the last few bits of the show. Lots of other guys coming in with their points. Dan, so we've had 45, 47. Realistically, what number do you think keeps whoever it is that finishes full from bottom? What number do you think it is?
I said 48, and I think I've just done the maths. I think we're going to get 49. So I think it's going to be very, very close.
Take that.
Positive, Dan. Like that.
I know.
I would say from this point on, realistically, for what it's worth, if we get anywhere near 15 points from now until the end of the season, by hook or by crook, however you do it, 4 wins, 3 draws, whatever, I think that might just be enough, because I think the team, I think it might have been you, Jay, that said the teams above us, there are some teams that are above us that are in bad states just like us as well. So if this new manager balance does work, you will you might see it Plymouth, as I said earlier, Stoke. I don't think Swansea are out of it, and travelling to Swansea on the last day of the season could be one hell of an away day. Plymouth at home the week before, the last home game as well. So those teams.
I'm looking at them games at the start of April. The Huddersfield and Rotherham away in the space of 5 days.
Yeah, we've got
all winnable games. Yeah, all winnable games as well.
We've got Birmingham are 5 points above us, looking at the table here, and then teams below them that we've still got to play Birmingham, we've still got to play Blackburn, still got to play Plymouth, still got to play Swansea, still got to play Huddersfield. The teams we are trying to catch, we still have to play, and this is where the Neil Harris, the speech, the effect, the man who's tasked with this. If he can't do it, I don't think there's many out there that could. I'm not saying that the appointment is the best appointment in the world before the comments have absolutely ruined me. But if Harris can't get us up for playing Birmingham at home, saying, right, come on, lads, 5 points behind and win this one, we're only 2 points behind them. It's another team we're dragging into it. That's why Neil Harris is here. That's why he's here, personally.
That's the sole reason he's here. Jose Mourinho could be out there, and you would still want Neil Harris to be the one to come into this club, because it is all about playing for this shirt, fight and pride for these last 13 games. It's got nothing to do with being a great manager, a tactician, and having this great style of football. This is a dogfight. There is no one better out there.
Absolutely, completely agree.
Sorry, I'm really sorry, but Mickey's just Jay looks a bit like me, but not as pretty. Jay, don't have that. Don't have that, mate.
There's a bit more on top.
It's because Jay's working nights, you see. That's why he looks more like Mickey.
I'm refreshed at the moment. Yeah, catch me 6 more hours, and I'll be dead as a donut. Yeah.
Guys, we're sort of coming towards the end. We did this, as I said earlier, I'd said to hold on, Jay is like Miss World compared to you, Mickey. There we go, you've got the support of the fans.
I've got support, I've got some backing.
Exactly. Guys, can I just say, right, for those that are going to watch Millwall away to Southampton, even if you watch it on a dodgy stream, could you imagine, right, the first minute Harris walks out, we're all singing Super Neil Harris. 10 minutes in, we go 1-0 up. Could you imagine the hairs on the back of your fucking neck, what that would do to our supporters, the players, the club, everything about it? The question is, we need to hang on to that. But I can see us doing it. It wouldn't surprise me if we go 1-0 up, take it to them, and we're like, fucking hell, here we go. We're going to win this one, And it wouldn't surprise me at all.
One thing I will say as well is I saw someone on Twitter. I'm not gonna name and shame anyone, but I saw someone on Twitter saying Harris has been doing them like free fist pumps that like Klopp does when he wins a game at Cambridge. I saw someone say on Twitter.
I saw him do that actually at Cambridge.
Yeah, someone said earlier, I'd love to see him do this down Millwall, and someone was like, "No, if he does that, someone should run on the pitch and chin him." He's already bringing back he's getting the original Millwall spirit back to us. That's what we like to hear.
Even in times of desperation, they still can't, let it go, can they?
Listen, they're calling for unity. That is uniting the fan base.
Absolutely.
There's not another manager who would do that. There really isn't. And like I said, this is not about formations, style of play, who's going to play. One thing we do know is that team from now till the end of the season will give 150%, and the fans will be 150% on side. And that is the unity that the club spoke about. That's the unity that's needed, and it will see us through to the end of the season. No one else could do it.
Well, I was just about to say, can we have some final words of wisdom and positivity from everyone? Jay has already started us off. Joe, can I have your final thoughts, please?
You know what? I think I kind of burnt myself out a little bit, the positivity of this show. So I'm sort of scraping the barrel here a little bit. But no, like I said to you before, we've got a chance here, guys. We've got an opportunity. It's been presented to us. Whether we agree or we don't agree with it, as we all discussed, I think Neil Harris is the best man to get us out of the situation we're at the moment. The players are either going to run with him or they're not going to run with him. If they don't run with him, guess what? They ain't going to play much for the remainder of the season. So we're going to have players first and foremost that are going to play for the badge, is what Neil Harris wants and what he said. That's a positive straight away in my eyes, yeah? He's going to go a bit direct. Yes, the football isn't going to be sexy as we like to sort of see it, but what we are going to get is passion. We're going to play on the front foot. We're going to take it to teams. We're going to be nasty. We're going to be aggressive. And ultimately, we're going to go there to beat these teams and win games, which is what we need. We only need four or 5 wins. We said that already. 4 wins or a few draws. Eight mission impossible. We can do it, but we need to play our part. The fans got to get behind the team, have to get behind Harris and make the Den, as we discussed earlier, a fortress. If we can do that, then I'm sure the players will deliver for us on the pitch.
Absolutely. Dan, some final words of wisdom, positivity, whatever you like.
Yeah,
you should have let Dan go middle. He could be in the shit sandwich, couldn't he?
Yeah, that would have been much better, to be honest, mate. No, listen, just kind of echo what the other two have said. We know we're going to get a Millwall team that's going to run for a brick wall for the rest of the season, and that's what we want. That's what we need where we are right now. So let's get behind the boys. I'm looking forward to getting down to Southampton and singing that first Super Nil on Saturday.
Can we get a fist bump off you, Dan? Can we get a few of these?
Absolutely not, mate.
Absolutely not. Mike, I will answer you.
Don't worry.
I will answer you first. So Harris back today. Is Mickey back on Friday? I believe he is back, ready to go for the Southampton game. For me, we don't know if the appointment is going to be successful. We don't know if it's going to be a masterstroke. We don't really know too much. But what we do know is that Neil Harris will have these players fighting for the badge. Neil Harris was a hero of mine. I'm sure he's a hero of a lot of people similar age to me growing up. And a hero is returning to try and save the club. I'm going to finish up. Firstly, thank you for everyone that's tuned in. The numbers that have been on this have been phenomenal for us. Thank you all so much. If you can like and subscribe, we've got through all the comments. We do try and get them all up on the stage, up on the screen. Sorry. So thank you very much, Jay, Joe, and Dan. Thank you very much for joining me.
Pleasure.
We are back on Friday. We've got Chat with Chaps coming out, obviously, after the Southampton game. There's loads of stuff going up on across all the socials. So please like, subscribe, follow us, all of that good stuff. I'm going to leave you all with a video that I took myself on the 18th of February 2017. I'm pretty sure most of you will probably know what that date was and what happened. But if you don't, it was the day that Millwall beat the champions of England 1-0 at the Den. And towards the end of the game, this is how it went. And as Dan said earlier, that first Super Neil Harris on Saturday will be there in Southampton. We will see you on Friday night, and let's back those boys. Go on, you Lions.